Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another session of the Rosefellow Podcast. With me today, my co-founder, co-president, best friend, Sam Tsoumas, to my left. Today, we're pulling back the curtains on industrial design that actually leases with my good friend, Fernando Lozano, CEO of GKC Architecture and Design, a prime consultant delivering millions of square feet a year and multiple carbon zero and LEED certified buildings. Thanks for being with us, Fernando.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Sam, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
It's a lot of fun because, you know, people think industrial and they think tin boxes. You've obviously upped the game when it comes to not only design but functionality of these buildings. They're so important in everybody's business. Fernando, GKC's roots stretch back to 1959, I believe it is.
That's right.
But you took over the helm in 2020. What was the first, call it moonshot challenge you championed and why?
Oh, moonshot. 2020. Going back now, we're talking about early days of COVID. That was a big challenge. So, so let me just backtrack here. So 1959 is definitely where we started off as a firm, but our vision is really on the future. And in 2019, my business partners and I, we came to an agreement that we said, hey, we're going to move forward with another chapter, GKC, with myself, at the helm of that. And in 2020, that moonshot was a culture change. And the culture change was one where really centered around establishing a chain of command to decentralize decision-making. That was the biggest moonshot because that is not how the company had operated for all of its history. But that's what would allow us to grow and scale the company without it turning into complete chaos at a time when we were doing some of the largest, most complex projects that we had ever done, at a time where we were growing at a pace faster than we had ever grown in history. So that was a big change for us. Big change.
Leadership culture is big at GKC.
Yep.
How do you turn architects into entrepreneurs inside the firm?
How do you decide who has that possibility? What are the traits that you see?
So the number one is integrity. Period. If you don't have that, you don't belong with us. So, and a lot of companies may say that, but the integrity really comes from being able to make mistakes and make yourself, I guess, vulnerable to a certain ways, like internally, and say, hey, I made a mistake. Can we talk about this? And so we empower people and we trust them. And some of the saying that I did with a lot of architects, across the companies, what I would say to them is, there's no mistake that you can make that we can't recover from. And I know that for many people that makes them very uncomfortable. But you know what? Empowering them and making them feel that somebody's got their back, they've made less mistakes. They make less mistakes because they feel they're actually backed up. They feel supported. And when an employee feels supported, then all of a sudden they're performing to their best. And that's when you really see what they're capable of.
And I could honestly identify with that because that was actually one of the things that gave me the confidence to like eventually what would start Rosefellow was one of my earliest employers, one of my bosses, my mentor, who's been on this podcast. Interestingly enough, I remember I was young, and he goes to me, Sam. He goes, if you're ever in a meeting and you have to make a decision, make the decision.
That's right.
There's nothing that you can make that exactly like you that you make a mistake, we'll learn from it, we'll deal with it. He goes. The only thing he goes, if you don't know the answer, don't answer. But he goes, if you think you know, answer. And that I could say, for me personally, that gave me confidence that I'd never had before and allowed me to grow beyond my capabilities of that time.
That's right. People grow faster.
Yeah.
And, I'm a big believer that people are what make your company. It starts with the people. And there's a little bit of discussion that we can have around that too.
Yeah. We've noticed that as well with our directors in construction. We've given them the runway, the leeway to make those decisions, and it's the same comment. It's okay if you make a mistake.
Yep.
Sometimes it does happen.
Yep.
We've never come down hard on them. It's about, okay, let's gather up as a team. Let's figure out a solution. Let's move forward. And you can see the growth. I mean, in the last 6-7 months.
Unreal.
Yeah, very impressive.
It's almost like you took employees who became now senior executives just by giving them that vote of confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I also noticed that how do you make an architect and an entrepreneur? Well, they also have to be able to sell, and that's an interesting thing. Like lawyers have to sell. Architects have to sell. You have to be able to drum up business, to integrity. Yes, you have to have the morals, the values of the company and as a person, but you do have to be able to sell your services, and that's an important factor. And does that weigh in on the decision?
It does. It does very much so, because we're in the business of architecture. That's just the reality. We are a business. We do have to generate revenue. We have costs, and we do have to make money. That's the nature of any business. Okay.
If I were to ask you, what lessons shaped your obsession with preparation and discipline? What would you say to that?
Yeah. So obviously my father was very much about that. So my father came from the aviation world. And his nickname was Just In Case. In his world.
I love that.
That was my dad. And even to this day, he's just in case kind of guy. So I learned that in terms of, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Yep. Always have a plan B and a plan C. And, he's a little bit over the top that way. And I kind of inherited a little bit of that and learned that along the way. And it's important to understand what your options are. So, when I translate that into my day-to-day, I'm always looking at the risks and opportunities. But I put more weight on opportunities than I do on the risk. That's just who I am. So. And
I don't think you have a choice. I mean, if you overthink any decision, you'll find a reason to walk away.
Absolutely.
So on opportunities, we noticed that you opened in Toronto first before jumping into LA and Vancouver. Why Toronto?
Yeah, so we start, our DNA as a firm is here in Montreal, but we've been doing business in Toronto for 60 years. I mean, we've been in business for over 65 now, but almost 65 years. So we've always been doing business there. We would just hop on a plane. But then when I came around, I said, okay, it's time now for GKC to look to new horizons. And we have a lot of clients in Toronto. We have a lot of opportunity there. And our clients, we were already doing several projects there, big projects. And it's like, it's time to have boots on the ground there and have an office there and set all that up, which was part of the plan before COVID rolled around. COVID rolled around, put a little bit of a damper on things. So we got a little bit delayed there, but we got set up. So Toronto was one. It was a natural location. And then for the same reasons, we set up in Vancouver. And Vancouver was also a natural progression of our expansion because we were already doing projects there. We were doing several buildings, and our clients wanted us to really come along. So Vancouver followed. And then LA came out of left field. Okay. I always say it's about the people. I came across, Christopher Blackadder, who was our associate and regional VP out there, and we met. We hit it off. Great guy, and has great experience and all that. And I was like, wow. I was like, when you make a connection like that, and you find the right person, I took it. I took the shot. So that was a moonshot, because that's an expansion into the U.S. market sooner than what we had originally planned. GKC was thinking about maybe going to the U.S. in 2026, but we did it in 2025. It's a year early, so it's still slow. But it's we have high hopes.
Amazing. Carbon zero used to be niche. Mm-hmm. Now it's an upcoming standard. How do you design sustainability that actually pays back? Because we often get asked the question.
Our philosophy is sustainability is not a cost. It's an investment. Absolutely. So, and, if we look forward a few years, it's going to be a must. It's going to be, already building codes are starting to shift. The mindset towards building codes are starting to shift, where it's going to be mandatory, or cities are going to impose it. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have the equivalent of a LEED Gold building. You're going to have a carbon neutral building, or, an energy generating source, or a water captation filtering system. You're going to need to do these things depending on the needs of those municipalities and cities. So it's going to be important to understand what that is. So for us, sustainability, big thing.
Same for us, but we see it as well on the tenant side. Yeah. We've been receiving recently more and more RFPs that have a requirement because their companies have their own ESG initiatives. We have. At Rosefellow, everything we build now is carbon zero, is LEED certified. Yep. It's a must. We are building or creating what we have to say is probably the greenest portfolio in Canada now, and they're all carbon and LEED certified.
Many of which are with your group.
That is
Absolutely.
correct.
But
And congratulations and good on you guys, by the way, for being leaders in that realm, because it's important. We need leaders like yourselves that are pushing the envelope and pushing the sustainability agenda. That's what the market really needs.
And what we're noticing, though, is companies are, and Mike, you're 100% correct, finally, after years and years, where LEED and Carbon Zero were more of a niche, a fad, something nice to see on a business card. Finally, we are actually getting RFPs that are saying, we want this. And I find that interesting, considering how it's almost like with the new political situation, it's almost like it's turned where it's not and no longer mandatory. I've noticed a lot of companies, their ESG initiatives are actually being pushed out. Even the gas-powered vehicles are actually staying longer than envisioned. Yeah. But we maintain that is still the future. It might not have come as fast as we all thought it would, and that's okay. But it is the future, and we'll keep doing it.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Change is something that humans do very well, but we don't like it. But we like the result that comes after. And right now we're living a period of change. The change has been very rapid. It's been on a variety of fronts. And I think that's a little bit what the world is trying to adjust. People are trying to find their bearings a little bit. And I think that translated into the political realm. Yep. I think it's translated into people's day-to-day behavior. Consumption behavior has also changed and adapting. We can see it across multiple generations as well. Like boomers think one way, X another, the millennials another, Z another, and they're all thinking differently with different values as well. So that is also shaping how we are approaching things, how we're approaching building design, sustainability, our mindset towards all that.
So if I think LEED and I think Carbon Zero, I think of a project or a campus we've done together. Let's talk Kirkland.
Yeah,
Kirkland
sure.
in Quebec for a second. How did Rosefellow push GKC to rethink conventional industrial footprints?
Well, the one thing that I would like to say about that is we love working with you guys. Okay. Show me a good client, I'll show you a good architect. And what I mean by that is when you have a client that is always challenging and asking questions, don't mistake that for telling the architect what to do. It's about challenge, about conversation, about collaboration. Because when you have collaboration and you have dialogue, then you don't have compromise. You have results.
I do have to say, I remember when we started the company, we had two industrial files, one of which was Reverchon in the West Island of Montreal, Pointe Claire. And I remember it was Mike that suggested, let's approach GKC. And evidently I knew of your group. We had worked together in my past life, my past employment. And I remember thinking, because you guys were really at the top. That's how we viewed you. I was like, they're not going to work with us. They're too small. And I remember when Richard, one of your associates, started talking to us, and he's been great with us. But it was never you're starting out. We're doing you a favor. It was like, thank you for bringing us in. And I remember that first meeting, I was like, wow, he thanked us. And that gave us the confidence to continuously work with your group. And it hasn't gone anything but better in the 6 years.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're always looking for is delight our clients. So I'm hoping that we can continue to do that, and we are going to work very hard to earn that from you as well.
I think the one thing that comes to mind when Sam was telling that story of one of the first industrial buildings we did, now probably 6 years ago, with GKC is we had a lunch with Richard Kaplan, and following that first building, which was ended up being leased to Nespresso Canada, Nestle. And he goes, I really enjoy the way you guys work. It's different to the extent that, he goes, you invited me into your boardroom. You showed us a certificate of location, basically a white canvas. There was the contractor was there. He goes, Richard was there, the architect, engineers, and our team. And we said, let's design together. What can we do here together? We didn't ask GKC to prepare a plan, come back to us, cost it. Oh, we're over budget. Go back, redesign. It was a collaborative effort from the first page up until the final delivery, and I think that it saves us a ton of time, and it gets everyone familiar with the team. Because on different projects, we have obviously different contractors. So, for you to mesh well with the contractors and see eye to eye and what's to be erected, I think we need that collaborative spirit. And it's one thing that always stuck out about with GKC.
And we were also transparent in our budgets, with the GC, with your group, and it seemed like everybody bought in. And I remember very clearly, your group was the easiest ones at the beginning to work with. It's almost like your own values were actually aligned with that, because it's a learning curve for a lot of people, even though it's something that's very simple to think of. It's a concept that, like, why isn't it done more often? It was surprisingly difficult to implement with several groups. Your group was actually one of the easiest ones. It's almost like it was welcomed. I remember some of our professionals that we brought in. I remember Richard, who you just mentioned, would say, well, I've worked with him. He's good. Yeah, he understands this. So we were able to build teams that have grown with us from the first building all the way now.
Absolutely. And we've done several buildings together. And again, to your credit, guys, it's about establishing an environment of collaboration. Right. So our three values are leadership, collaboration, and excellence, and collaboration being a big one. And one of the things that we teach some of the more junior architects or younger guys, or even the associates, young women and men that we have a part of our group, is listen to the client, seek to understand them. What are their objectives? Understand that, then you can actually propose what it is that you think could be a solution for them.
Absolutely.
It's different than other architects or different other groups, for example, because we come from a creative field where we're taught in school to propose. So we're wired to propose. Okay, but how are you proposing if you haven't listened yet?
If you don't understand the budgets, the metrics, the values of a company on top of it.
Correct.
So we have a large campus we designed and developed together in Beauharnois, Quebec, where we have two, I think one is 417,000 square feet. The second building is 325,000 square feet of next generation logistics. What design decisions will future-proof these buildings for tenants that will occupy this space?
Well, that one, the first thing that comes to mind is natural daylight. That's a big one because those buildings are actually designed to be single tenant or multi-tenant. We can, that adaptability that we've designed together is huge. So adaptability, natural daylight are two things that I would say that tenants would enjoy in the future, because with tenants being able to say, hey, you were talking about starting your business earlier. You may have a tenant that's going to be starting their business too. And all of a sudden they're taking, 50,000 feet, but their business does well. They the landlords that you guys are, say, hey, I'm growing. I need more space. No problem. This place is designed to be able to grow, contract if things don't go well. Those things have to be taken into account.
So what are some trends that you're seeing, from the day we started to today? You can see how the industrial game has changed. Even the building designs have changed.
Absolutely.
What we're seeing now going forward is it's evidently, the square footage matters, but it's the volume that's also starting to become something that's important. Automation is becoming important. What trends are you seeing from end users that you didn't see, say, when you started at GKC in 2020?
Oh my, yeah. So I'll go back even further. So I started my career at GKC in 2003, and the time has really changed since then. I feel that buildings now and the way people approach buildings, ROI has always mattered, but the ROI has always been something that's been shifting and changing over time. So I still remember in my early years, if ROI is worth more than 3 or 4 years of payback, nobody looked at it. And now people are 7, 8, 10 years. Once in a while, you see somebody, I'm willing to invest in that mechanical system, even though the payback is going to be a little bit longer. So that's a big change.
On that note, give us your bold 2030 prediction. What will make or break industrial real estate values?
Adaptability, flexibility. Your buildings need to be adaptable.
I love that.
It has to be adaptable.
It's one of the most important factors that we put into the design of a building.
We have to. You have to almost future-proof the building, because what's good for a user today will not be the same in 10 years.
Future-proofing, keyword you just mentioned there. And future-proofing, you need to look at time horizon of future-proofing. That's how I would actually approach it in terms of, you want a future-proof for how long ahead? And there's only so much you can have visibility on, so much you have control on, and so much you can actually change in time. So that is a big conversation to have and collaborative conversation to have, because it will impact your pro formas, your budgets, your construction costs, how you go about it, engineers you may hire or not hire, how you design the building as well. There's so many factors that come in that. So future proofing is not something that should be done at the end. It's something that should be done at the front end.
So with regards to future proofing, how does a GKC future proof itself or bring in as part of its infrastructure AI?
AI is a big part of the future. It's here now. So the way that I like to explain it, so internally, and what I've told my team, because we have AI and we use it daily, is think AI first. Get into AI first mindset. So before you do anything, you touch at anything, think about how AI can actually help you. Don't see AI as a program, because AI is not a program. It is not a Word or an Excel. Forget that. Get that out of your head. AI is an assistant or a team of assistants, depending on how you can leverage that. So that is how you need to think about it, and how it's impacting our industry. It impacts it in a level of design, because you can get a lot of different ideas out of AI very quickly. They're not all good. You get all kinds of wonky stuff. Okay. You need that critical mindset and the critical thinking in terms of being able to analyze what's good and what's not, what you want to keep, but it can give you a lot of ideas really fast on the creative side. And then it's not advanced yet enough to look at everything that comes down the workflow process, you know?
So a lot of people are evidently worried about AI. And you said not everything works and there's wonky things. Give us an idea of something that's wonky that you said, okay, it's far.
Renderings is something that's coming really fast and it's going to get perfected really quickly. So that one there, if you go back, let's say 2 years, and you see the first images that AI was producing 2 years ago, not so great. You look at what AI is producing today in terms of images, it's getting pretty darn good. And just recently now, if you look at some of the GPTs that are out there that are producing even Instagram reels that are, you think are real. And it's like, it could be, our prime minister talking and, he's all swearing and at somebody else. And it's like, whoa, is this guy real? No, he's not. It's an avatar or an AI production. So you got to watch out for that, because it can skew reality. Now, in our world, it's the same thing, right? You can produce now images and renderings that are going to be gorgeous. So you can market properties and real estate much faster and much better. You can make it look so real and tangible that you think it's there. So that's an advantage in many cases. Now, in terms of what it can do for businesses and all that, I feel that it's going to also help integrate businesses, where you guys are, let's say, going to have an AI agent. We're going to have an AI agent, and those AI agents are going to communicate and collaborate together. That's another conversation.
It's amazing how it's developing and evolving. We've implemented it into our business, and it's crazy. It's sometimes scary to think where it can go, but the good thing about us is we're open to try new things and different things at Rosefellow. So we're excited about it as well.
So we also have jobs for the next few years.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
If you could whisper advice to a 25-year-old developer entering the market, what would you tell them?
Learn, listen, read a lot. Be curious. Ask a lot of questions. I would tell them also that individual needs to learn the technical skills for sure. But the perfect mix is somebody that is going to be good technically, but also good at understanding the adaptability that is going to be required of the market and of the people and the behavior of the people that are going to use the buildings and the real estate pieces.
Simple one. How do you keep design beautiful and operational at the same time?
You don't separate them. So form follows function for us at GKC. Having said that, they're not separable. So if you have something that's super functional, but it's not aesthetically pleasing, then you miss the mark. There was a saying at GKC, I don't know where it started or originated, but this comes from before me. But if you can't find the front door, you failed.
I like that.
Right. So it's just like that.
Common sense.
Yeah, a little bit of common sense there. You need to understand how people are going to flow, how product is going to flow, how vehicles are going to circulate on your site. You need to understand all of those things and to be able to create something that is actually going to satisfy not just the visual look, but also the functionality of the site and building.
So share a project with us where aesthetic met functionality, and something that you didn't expect, and something that worked very well in that regard.
The one that's up for an architectural award right now, which is Rosefellow's Candiac project.
I was actually there. I brought my children to see it on Sunday, this past weekend, and they hadn't seen it completed. It's funny enough. It was because I live the other side of the world in Laval, so the South Shore is quite a bit far. I actually took them to a drive to go see it, and it's unbelievable when you see it fully done. And we've all seen our buildings, but when you take a step back and say, why is this building nominated? It never crossed my mind. Like, for us, it was our day-to-day business. And when you go there with that mindset, it was, okay, I see it.
Yeah, so the roller compacted concrete surfaces, yes, you're right. What is a porous pavement as well. But just the design of the building, we've got also greenhouse, right, on the roof, which is something that is already here now in terms of technology. We're seeing it. Europe has a little bit more of that than we do here because they're constrained with space that we don't have here. But what I am seeing, and just to segue a little bit here, is I'm seeing municipalities across Canada that are actually asking for these types of buildings. And why are they asking for this? Because they want to be able to rezone, in many cases, agricultural land to industrial land. And in order for them to be able to justify it to the constituents and to everybody, they say, well, we're going to turn this into industrial land. So an industrial building will go there, but they put the greenhouse on top so they can still maintain the agricultural aspect of the land. So that may be projecting a little bit into the future. Having said that, though, having produce produced close to the consumption, which is all the people in all in cities, is a big win. So again, like the trends and all that, the project that we did together in Candiac is one that is amazing.
And that's a true project where going back and thinking about it, where everybody collaborated. Because I remember the first few meetings we had with the city between ourselves, it wasn't exactly easy to figure out what was the final project. We knew that we had to put up an industrial building. We had an idea of our size, of what scale it needed to be, but it took a while, and you could see how the final result there was unbelievable.
Love that you said that, because industrial buildings can be beautiful. We can design them to be beautiful. They don't have to be a white box.
Industrial is sexy. I think that was our tagline for quite a bit.
100%. And it will continue to be sexy. 100%.
So what red flags in a feasibility study will keep you up at night, even after 20 years in the game?
Soil.
Yeah, same with us.
But you know what? I have to say, there's not much good soil left.
There's always a challenge, right?
There's always a challenge, whether it be, piles or wetlands. There's always something. Any vacant greenfield site, there's a reason it's vacant greenfield. Got to work our magic.
Right. So it's important to have a good soils engineer, and that entity that's doing the soil testing and all that, to give them a mandate that is not based on dollars and cents. Have a collaborative meeting with them and say, before, like, we're going to work with you, or let's say another group if you're tendering this out, all depending on how you guys want to work this out. But at the end of the day, whoever it is that you're selecting, work with them and say, how do you see this site? Tell me why is it that you're doing these boreholes? Tell me why you're doing these test pits. Tell me where they are. What are my risks before they even go in? And adapt that mandate to suit that site so that you're able to maybe sleep at night and not feel like, did I miss something and not miss something? There will always be surprises with respect to soil. Always. Because you don't know what you don't know unless you excavate the whole thing.
That's right. Walk us through the most important step in GKC's due diligence checklist that saved developers, tons of money.
So DD for us is zoning analysis, soil, environmental reports, soil reports, all that kind of stuff, all the front end stuff. We look to understand what it is that we're dealing with. What is a property dealing with? Because that land was there before any of us. So, and many times the properties that are looked at are properties that are already serviced. Where are the services coming from? What opportunities can we actually use with respect to topography of the site? Can we orient this in such a way that it will actually be beneficial for the building, for the site flow, and et cetera? Can we, reuse some of the services that are existing coming into that property? We're always looking at those opportunities and risks for you guys.
If we switch it up a bit, I'm thinking talent, culture, succession.
Mm-hmm.
You promoted 6 new associates recently in the last 18 months?
Yeah, 6. Yeah. There's 8 of them right now.
Wow.
Wow.
What qualities made them stand out?
Well, again, I go back to integrity as a big one, but initiative, adaptability, and they must be continuous learners. Must. We don't, the philosophy at GKC is no elephants. We don't want anyone that's in there that's just doing their job and just turns their brain off and just keeps doing the same old thing over and over again, because things are moving too fast. So those are really qualities that I look for in them. So we've got 4 associates here in Montreal. We have 2 in Toronto, 1 in Vancouver, and 1 in LA. So that's 8.
So funny enough, you did not mention talent. And that's something that I've always thought is interesting. You could be born naturally with talent, but you could teach somebody as long as the work ethic is there, that trumps talent. And I didn't hear one word about talent.
Hard work beats talent all day long.
Every day of the week.
All day long. But hardworking talent.
Well, that's a combination that's unbeatable.
So you had a guest here, Joe Roulet, who actually spoke a little bit about leadership. And his segment was a little bit about, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
So he's the epitome of that.
Yeah.
He is the
talent.
hardworking, hardest working guy that you could possibly imagine, right? But it just happens to be that he's extremely talented.
What's your playbook for keeping firm culture intact while expanding to new cities?
That's very hard. As you grow, it's unbelievable. So I'm curious.
Because you're not there all the time, right?
Not out there. Expansion sometimes dilutes the culture. So
I'm gonna pick up a little bit on what word the Mike just mentioned. You're not there. Isn't that what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay. That implies that you're the culture.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you're talking about decentralized decision-making. You talk about empowerment. So you need to be able to explain your culture. You need to be able to live it and get them to live it and buy into it. But in order for them to buy into it, somebody has to make that first move. That first move is about trust. So if you are able to trust that individual in that new market, like I do, let's say Andre Phillip, who is our associate in Vancouver, Christopher Blackadder, who's in Los Angeles, they're 3 hours apart from us. If I don't trust them, I need to make that first move. It's like these are the values of GKC. This is our vision. This is where we're headed. This is how we do things here. This is our culture. And they need to buy in. So you can't force anybody to buy in, whether they are here next to you 24/7 or somewhere else across the country. So in order to be able to do that, you need to be able to have a culture that's already solid enough that you're able to build on it. And you need to be able to demonstrate that you live and breathe that culture yourself by way of example. And then with that, then it flows.
So I have a question, because I feel often foolish. We speak layman terms, we're in meetings. What is the proper way of saying it? Is it zero carbon or carbon zero? And where does the net in all of this come about? And is it applicable?
Okay. Zero carbon is the way that I would go about it. And
Okay.
the reason why is because it's the zero carbon buildings standards. That's actually a certification that Candiac actually just got in the building.
I call it carbon zero.
Yeah, that's okay. It's interchangeable. There's no right or wrong, to be honest with you. And then the net is really a matter of saying that you're actually producing as much as you are consuming. So it's net zero. So you're even. Very hard to do here in Quebec to be net completely, because that means that you need power generation. So that's very difficult to do that.
Beyond carbon metrics, how do you measure a building's social impact on its surrounding community?
Community is a key word, community engagement, the impact that it has, the legacy that building's going to leave on that community, the legacy it's going to leave on that street, on that neighborhood. How is it going to live and age over time? I like to say, I'm going to use Richard Kaplan's term, which is, who's my business associate. Good design is good business.
Yep.
And it's true, and if you have a good design, and then again, if you don't separate completely form and function, you're successful at both, then you're going to have a great result day one, but you're going to have a great result over time. And really, the definition of that is really the impact over time.
You mentioned community before. What can you share, or can you share a story where community engagement during planning changed the project for the betterment of it?
Look at the work that we did together on Kirkland. Huge. All those homes that are in the back, everybody was a little bit worried. Okay, industrial building, trucks backing up, the beeping, this and that, putting up a sound wall, putting up, like a landscape buffer as well. And today, all those residents that are there, I understand that they're a little bit happier today than they used to be because it's also acting as a buffer to the highway. That's not far.
And I still remember that first meeting when we were talking about presenting our proposals to acquire the site. That was the first thing that our two respective groups said was the most important. Not what we were going to do at the end with regards to the buildings. It's how are we going to protect and ensure the citizens had an area to live that is devoid of any nuisances caused by an industrial project.
That's right, and that site had its own challenges, right? I mean, great location facing the highway and all, but it has the REM, right? So the elevated train here in Montreal that was already there, or at least the rail wasn't running yet, but the structure was structure was there. So having to coordinate around that, coordinate around also the on ramp for the highway for the service road as well, the entry points for that with the MTQ and the city,
the REM servitudes,
the
depth
aerial.
of the site was not that wide considering how close it was to the service road.
That's right.
Overrated in industrial design. What is?
Overrated in industrial design. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think what's overrated is oversimplifying. Oversimplifying. Like creating that white box. I think it's overrated to say, it's cheap, it's easy, it's dollars and cents per square foot. Because at the end, the legacy you're living, it's just not there.
I funny enough, I have one also.
Sure.
In my thought, precast. Every city you have to have precast, and things that we've been able to do lately with changing the materials, looking at different ways to integrate the materials. I think precast, every building has to have precast. I think that's overrated.
I agree with you. It's completely overrated because precast is just a material. It's not a design. It's not anything. It's how you combine materials, how you contrast materials. All those things are part of the design acumen, really, that an architect will bring to the table.
One municipal change that would speed up development.
Streamline. Oh my goodness, streamline.
Agreed.
One of the biggest things that we see here, especially in Quebec, every municipality has a different process.
Yeah.
You have to know every single municipality. Everyone is different. Everyone has their information is completely different. So if there were really an opportunity to really set a standard and say, hey, here are the 10 steps you need to follow for all the municipalities, everyone's information has to be documented the same way in the same order. I know it's boring and everyone wants to add their little touch and all that, but the truth of the matter is velocity matters. Speed matters. Yes. Agility matters. In the real estate world, the way that I see it, and the way that I tell a lot of my clients is you guys need to move very quickly, because when a tenant comes along and says, I need a building, typically when they come to you and they need a building, they don't need a building in 10 years from now. They need it now.
You're probably already too late.
Yes. So exactly. Because they're bean counters, right? So they're bean counting and they're saying, hey, this is our needs. The market is moving rapidly. Sometimes there's huge expansions for buildings. You need to move fast. How can you move fast if you don't control that aspect of a project, which is the cities and municipalities and all that. So if that process is different every single time, you go, well, if you do a building in this municipality, it's going to take you 6 months. If you do it in this one, it's going to take you 2 years. There's a problem. We need to streamline this.
So for the listeners who are involved in developing industrial, like we do, what would be the one piece of advice for those looking to acquire a site that you must have in your view for an industrial development?
Look at what the site can do not only for you today, but down the road. Look at how it can adapt. Look at how you can subdivide it, whether it be the site or the building that you're going to put on that site, whether you can do one building or two. Can you do two? Do you need to subdivide into multiple properties to get two buildings? All those things need to be taken into account.
2026 prediction in one sentence.
I think we're going to find some stability in 2026. I think it's been murky in 2025 with the macroeconomics of the planet. And I think 2026 is going to bring a little bit of stability. We'll see where it goes from there.
So I've heard you're into leisurely activities. You seem like you train, you work out, you do. From what I've heard, snowboarding, hiking.
Yeah.
Where do you get most zen? Where do you get all your ideas from? Which of the two?
I'm not a good enough snowboarder to say that that's where I'm zen. I'm trying to survive and not kill myself. And I snowboard so I can, my daughters, both of them, they ski and they snowboard. They're dual sport athletes themselves. And that's great to see them do that. But for me, I got into snowboarding for that reason. But zen, when I train, actually, because I train every single day, and on less days that I get tired, I take a day off. That's usually when a lot of good ideas come about. I have my phone not too far from me. I'll chalk down ideas. Sometimes I'm listening to podcasts when I'm training, if I'm cycling in zone 2. Hiking is another activity that I do, with friends of mine, and we just get on all kinds of different topics and conversations. So it's really when you free the mind, and I'm moving, but I need to be in zone 2, cardiovascular, and not into, high BPMs.
There's 2 questions I love to ask. One, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, mine. Well, from a training point of view, when I was 25 years old, they said, when you're 25, train like you're 45, so that when you're 45, you can train like you're 25.
I like that.
So that was a great.
Taught me that one.
So I learned that. I'll disclose I'm 48 today, and that's what allows me to train really hard. On the professional side, I think the best piece of advice for me has been keep at it. Keep at it. Just don't stop. Keep at it. There's going to be good days and bad days. Not every day is a home run. Not every day is going to be great. And a lot of it also comes from discipline. And the discipline, a lot of people say, oh, discipline, I hate discipline. I'm not disciplined, and so on and so forth. And I say, well, don't look at it from a point of view of being disciplined and doing the same thing over and over. Think about the calmness that you are going to feel after having been disciplined, and how you will find calmness after you've executed what you had to execute.
So if we were to do a survey from your team, what is the one leadership skill, leadership style that you think would stand out if they spoke about you?
I like to empower my teams. I like to empower them, give them the opportunity to make decisions, give them the opportunity to be creative, bring me problems, bring solutions, bring whatever you want. Just bring it. Think, speak up on whatever it is that is on your mind. Explain to me why that matters to you, why that you think that the business should go in that direction, or that we should make that change to a process. I'm always about that. And then explain to me, okay, so how would you do it? And that's usually when people tend to fall short. So I'm a big advocate of the why, how method. And it's like, okay, what are we talking about? Why is that important? And how do we do it? And then, well, I don't know how we do it. I just think it's important. Well, that's okay. So go think about how we're going to do this. And then you start looking at that. And that's when it gets hard. It's the how, because sometimes you don't understand and you're not seeing what you're not seeing. You're not seeing the blind spots. That to me is really what matters. And I love empowering people to be able to do that.
I love that, because I tell people all the time when they come to me with a problem, I said, what's the solution? Well, I don't have one yet. So how about you think of a solution? It may not be the right solution, but come to me with the problem and then your ideas on how we can resolve this problem.
Yep.
I love when they do that, because it gets them thinking and they come with that kind of optimistic, listen, we had a situation, but this is how I think we could resolve it.
So, going back to the question you asked me before about a 25-year-old developer, that's starting off in the business, I think that's one of the things that they should actually learn, which is when you're going to see a mentor, like you guys are now mentors to some of the young crew that you guys have here. And when they come see you guys, what those individuals need to be doing is saying, well, why are Mike and Sam telling me to go find solutions? Aren't they the boss and having to find all the solutions? No, what they're trying to do is teach you to think like them.
And, you made me think about when you're talking about discipline. The one thing someone once told me was that discipline is doing the things you hate to do, but doing it like you love it.
Yeah.
And I love that, because it gets you out of your element, but it makes you appreciate what's difficult and creates that discipline.
Agreed. So, I've actually been able to translate that from workouts and gyms into professional life. And I'll give an example to that effect. For those people out there that are always saying, I can't work out, or, sometimes I just don't feel like it and I just skip it, and then I skip and I skip it. And I say to them, don't do that. Don't skip. Go in there, and it's like, instead of thinking of how hard in that mountain that you need to climb, and let's say that, I'm just going to use an example, you need to do, I don't know, dumbbell curls or something like that. And I don't want to do 20-pound dumbbell curls. It hurts. And don't. Take the 5 pounds. Start. Take the 5 pounds, super light. Just curl them. Oh, that's too easy. It's okay. Do 5. Do that. Do that. Do 20. Yeah. Do 20 of those, and then go to 10 pounds, and then just for fun. Come on, just challenge yourself just a little bit. 5 pounds is too easy, right? That's what. And then by the time you know it, your body and your mind are now in a different place, in a different mind frame, and then all of a sudden you're at the 20. And you're doing that, and not only are you doing the 20 reps now, but you did all the ones before that. The reps are in. So those reps that you did before are very important for your muscle stimulation as well. In professional life, same thing happens. So sometimes people need to go do a certain task, and it's like, oh man, I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like doing that. And it's like, okay, so don't go do all of it. Don't think of the whole mountain that you have to like review here. Like, I don't know, if they're doing drawing reviews or something, like I got to review 50 pages of it. Don't review 50, just review one and come back and see me. And then, so how'd it go? Yeah, I got it done. That was an easy one, this and that. Okay, no problem. So why don't you go do a couple more and come back and see me after that? And all of a sudden it's like they're in a rhythm. It's like, oh, finally I didn't do 2. I just did 20 of them and now I'm taking a break. There you go.
I love that. The one thing that comes to mind as well when you say that is, for myself, is I put myself in my shoes if I don't do the task. Cold plunge, as an example.
That's a great one.
I do it every morning and I do it every night before bed. People think I'm nuts. But when I don't feel like doing it, I kind of put myself in the mindset, okay, am I going to be happy with my day? Am I going to feel good about myself starting my day without having done that? Same with the workout. If I'm thinking about skipping, what am I going to feel like if I don't go to the gym? I'll probably eat something I'm not supposed to. I'm going to be sluggish. So I always think of that. We got presentations. Do I really feel like preparing? We've done this a million times, Sam. Let's just go into the meeting. No, because if we do flop, if we don't do it the way we usually do it, we'll feel guilty and saying we should have prepared. So I try to put myself in the mindset as if I don't. What happens if I don't do that?
And we were like that at the very beginning. I mean, we were naturally, we had earned a reputation. We were good at what we do. I think this applies to all of us. And, we would go in saying, we know what we do. But when you take a step back, how do you better if you're already good? How do you and it really is coming down to, the moment you give yourself a goal, the moment you said, tomorrow I'm going to cold plunge, to me, it's irrelevant the cold plunge or not. It's that you said you would do it and you do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
You hold yourself accountable.
You guys just hit so many topics there, like in terms of what to do and all that. So I'm just going to take away a lot of what you said. Document your goals, write them down, right? If you write them down, you're going to achieve those goals. You have a better probability of achieving them if you wrote them down. That's what we should be doing. That's one. Mike, you're saying about the discipline and that pain, I guess, that you feel going into that cold plunge, but it's about how you feel after. You're talking about preparation. Chris Voss wrote a book, and he was a former FBI negotiator, and he's got a few books out there. You guys should take a peek at that. But one of the sentences that really struck with me is, you fall to the highest level of preparation. And that's exactly what it is. So that having the discipline to prepare is what allows you to actually rise and raise that baseline. It requires a lot of discipline. It requires consistency. It requires a lot of things. People after that will look at you and they'll say, "Oh, you guys are lucky." And I'm sure that you two have suffered from, and I would say suffered from being called lucky. And it's because people are seeing the tip of the iceberg. They didn't see what was happening underwater. And all that came from preparation met opportunity. That was your luck.
I remember, I don't remember who had said it, but it was more of like a running joke. Mike, you and I know this is like, well, if you guys could do it, anybody could do it. And I'm like, oh, if you guys only knew.
You're absolutely right. It comes down to preparation. It comes down to planning. I've heard many times people tell me, "Oh, you're a natural speaker. I've heard you on stage. You're a natural." People don't know that when I was a kid, I was so shy. I was sent to drama school. I had no choice. When there's a presentation to be done, I will spend at least 6 hours a night preparing for a presentation. And that's hundreds of hours for one 10-minute presentation on stage. People don't see the practice, the preparation you put into things.
Or even you and I. I mean, to me, you are a naturally gifted public speaker, but I know exactly the preparation you put into it. I am terrified. Like, everything needs to be memorized for me. So it's like literally to that point. And Mike, I gave credit to Mike. He's actually tried to help me alleviate this, even through these, these outlets, the podcast and that, but terrified of public speaking.
You know what it is too? At the onset of Rosefellow, Sam said, you're the image, you're going to be the face. You speak, you do the podcast, you do the presentations. And I would never allow it. I said, this is something we started together. We're going to do it together. And I remember like it was yesterday. I hate doing this. I have to prepare. I have to memorize.
So bad.
And you listen to him today compared to our first ever podcast. You watch him on stage compared to the first time we've ever been on. It's a completely different person. But he came out of his comfort zone. He practiced like a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes who we are today, all of us.
I feel that, Sam, you don't give yourself enough credit. You are a good public speaker. I've seen you on stage and do public speaking. You're very good. And you're very good when it comes to interaction.
Yeah.
You've been on debates and like real estate forums, you've been on panels and all that, and you're very good because I feel that I can sense that maybe personally, like you have a certain emotion, butterflies, that anticipation that's brewing. Having said that, you know what you're talking about and you know the topic. And as soon as that topic starts coming, you just fall right into your role and you're like, okay, that all that disappears. That's what it comes across, right? That's how you show up for people watching you. Like I'm just telling you from somebody that's been in the audience.
Get asked something I don't know.
Like, Mike has an imposing.
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. So Mike has an imposing, physique. So he comes on stage, from his 6'5", like here we go, like a deep voice and all that. So for sure, we'll give him that credit. We'll give him that credit. And he prepares for it. And what's good about Mike, I find, is whenever he's prepared, and there's things that you've seen, that I've seen that you've done, you're a big advocate of City of Montreal. And, I've seen you go into Montreal Real Estate Forum and be a big advocate for Montreal. And it's the passion that you bring and coupled with, the aura that you bring on stage. So then your cadence of your speech and your topic and your passion, all that just flows right through.
Fernando, any final words of wisdom to people who've tuned in today?
First of all, thank you for having me. Secondly, it's always a pleasure to work with Rosefellow. So that anyone out there that's listening, that's looking, guys, Rosefellow is a place to look into and ask questions, regardless of background, whether you're consultants or anything like that. Consultants out there that are maybe watching this show, that would want to think about potential clients. You guys are a great client, fantastic client. Love working with you guys. So in terms of wisdom, I would say to them, learn, keep learning. Don't stop. Don't think that things are going to go back to the way they used to be. Don't wait. Also, a lot of people are waiting on the sidelines right now to make moves. Stop waiting.
Talking about learn, where can people learn more about GKC? How can they find out more about your company and you and your team?
Well, I love that you asked the question, Mike. We just rebranded. We have a new website, gkc.ca or gkc.us, depending on where you are. All there is all about our history, our vision, our mission statements, all in there. Our values are in there, projects that we've done, a lot of them that we've done together, as a matter of fact. Also, all the market sectors that we tackle, because we don't only do industrial, we also do commercial, we do adaptive reuse, we do workplace strategy, we do architectural interiors, a lot of interior design for tenants, a lot of the tenants that you guys have had as well. And we're expanding that team aggressively these days. So we're really growing in a lot of different market sectors. So gkc.ca or gkc.us.
I got to say, for us, it's been a true honor, blessing to be working with you and your team for the last 6 years since we founded Rosefellow. It's been incredible, an incredible team collaboration. So thank you. You've built an incredible team. On that, we'd love to encourage all the listeners to subscribe and share the episode and follow Rosefellow on social media. And again, Fernando, thanks so much. It was a great pleasure having you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.